Hello, fifth grade. Today we are going to learn how to divide fractions. And it's really not that much different than multiplying fractions. We're just going to add one extra piece in there. So you need to get out your second workbook. It's the one that says modules 10 through 20 at the bottom. And you're going to open up to page 268. We're going to do 268 and 269 today. If you need to pause the video to get that stuff out, please do that right now. All right, so at this point, you should have already taken your notes on how to divide fractions. Now we're just gonna do some practice pages together before you're on your own, just like we would normally do if I were here with you or if I were teaching live today. So let's start with the very first one. And at any time, if you think I can do that problem on my own, I want you to pause the video and try it on your own. Number one. Josiah has 3 pounds of potato salad for his cookout. He divides the potato salad into 1/4 pound servings. How many 1/4 pound servings does Josiah have? Well, let's do the cube strategy. Circle any numbers that you see. I see 3, a 4th, and then they say a 4th again. I'm going to underline the question. How many 1/4 pound servings does Josiah have? And then I'm going to look for some keywords. Well, I already told you that our skill is dividing fractions, so we should know that by now, but you're going to have to pick out these keywords when all of a sudden you're adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions. So that's why we do those keywords. So one really sticks out at me. Divides. Okay, so what we need to do first is write an equation to model the situation. When you're doing dividing fractions, what number comes first is very important. Just like when I'm subtracting regular whole numbers, whatever number comes first has to be the right one. So look at your question and think, what am I dividing up? Am I splitting up the 3 pounds of potato salad, or am I splitting up the 1/4 pound servings? Picture this in your head. Which one are you cutting into pieces? You're cutting into pieces the 3 pounds of potato salad. So we're going to take the 3 and divide it by a 1/4. And we want to write an equation, so we're going to write an equal sign. Remember, sometimes people put question marks, but now we're getting into harder math. So we're going to replace that question mark with a letter. A letter is also called a variable. And it doesn't matter what letter you pick. I'm going to have you put down S for servings, because that's the problem that we're solving. Secondly, represent the equation by drawing rectangles as a visual model. Listen, if you don't remember or you're not sure if this is right, if it should be 3 divided by a 4th or a 4th divided by 3, draw it out. And if it seems impossible to draw it, then you probably got your numbers flip-flopped. So I'm going to pretend I have 3 pounds of potato salad. So I'm going to draw 3 rectangles that are hopefully look as equivalent as possible. Nobody's a perfect artist. Okay, and remember, we try to draw squares or rectangles when we're doing fractions because circles make it hard to see the equivalency. So now I have 3 pounds of potato salad. I need to divide each one of those into a 1/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, yep. And while it's not perfect, it gets the idea across. So then part B, how many rectangles did you draw to represent the dividend? Well, we did 3 rectangles because we wanted to show that that's 3 pounds of potato salad. How did you represent the divisor in your visual fraction model? Let's take a moment. If I had 3 divided by a 1/4 and I were to write it out like a regular division problem, on the inside goes the first number, and the second number goes on the outside. And math vocabulary says this is the dividend and this is the divisor. So I divided each rectangle into 4 equal parts. So and there's my sloppy handwriting because I'm trying to make this video not too long, but I divided each rectangle into 4 equal parts. Guys, it's breaking it down step by step because if you can explain what you did, then it connects to your brain why you did it that way. How does your visual fraction model represent the quotient? Well, the number of parts in the 3 rectangles represents the quotient, okay? And I'm gonna let you skip that one, but I just want you to know each one of these represents the quotient, which would be right there. How many 1/4 pound servings of potato salad does Josiah have? Let's count them. There's 4, 8, 12. We have 12 servings. And I could do all of that just by drawing a visual. But remember, I always want you to be able to show the equation or the algorithm and how we did it. So based off of our notes, how can you use a multiplication equation to represent your visual model fraction? Look, I've got 3 divided by 1/4, which is the same thing as saying 3 over 1. Remember, whole numbers can go over 1, divided by 1/4. But if I follow my division fraction rules, I'm going to keep it, change it, flip it. So I'm going to keep my whole number, change my division sign to a multiplication sign, and flip my 4th to become 4 over 1. Now this is simple multiplication. 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 1 is 1, and that equals 12 servings. So what we've done is we've taken one problem, we've broken it down into pieces, every step that you need to do along the way. Go ahead and get out or turn to page 269. You'll need to tear these out. 269 looks like this. Now this is going to be the same process just with a different problem. And if you feel like you can do these, pause the video and you can do it. So again, let's start with the word problem. At Josiah's cookout, 4 friends share 1/3 of watermelon equally. What fraction of the whole watermelon does each friend get? So I have 4 friends and 1/3 of a watermelon equally. If you see the word equally, it almost always means that you are dividing it somehow. My question is, what fraction of the whole watermelon does each friend get? Part A, write an equation to represent the problem. I want you to think for a minute, okay? Is this, and I'm going to put this up at the top, am I dividing 4 friends into 1/3 of a watermelon? Are you dividing up those people? Or are you dividing up 1/3 of the watermelon between 4 people? If you flip-flop these numbers, it is not right. So think, am I dividing up the friends or am I dividing up the watermelon? Well, you're dividing up the watermelon. You've got to visualize that. So I've got the 1/3 of a watermelon and I'm dividing it between 4 friends. Remember, we're writing an equation, so put an equal sign, and you can put any letter here that you want. I'm going to put W for watermelon. Draw a visual model to represent the equation. The rectangle right here represents the entire watermelon, but we don't have an entire watermelon. How much watermelon do we actually have to start with? 1/3. We only have 1 out of 3 pieces of watermelon. They didn't tell us what happened to the other pieces, okay? So then I need to divide the rectangle to represent the dividend. So pretend this is the whole watermelon. I'm going to divide it into 3 pieces, which means I'm going to draw 2 lines. Okay, and I don't have 2 of these pieces. I really have this piece right here. Okay, this is 1 out of 3 pieces. Divide the dividend to represent the divisor and divide the other sections the same way. We don't really need to do the other sections. Listen, how many friends are you dividing it by? 4. So I'm going to divide just one of these sections into 4ths. Always double count to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I don't need the other part. I know it says divide the other sections the same way. We don't really need to do that because we don't get any of that. We only get 1/3 of that. Shade the part that each friend gets. So if I'm one of the friends, I get 1 of these parts. Okay, what fraction of the whole watermelon does each friend get? Well, it was 1/3, but we've got the whole watermelon. So if I actually divided these up, again, all I have to do is count individual pieces, okay? So how many parts do I have shaded at the moment? Well, I only have 1 part shaded at the moment. So 1 out of how many? 4, 8, 12. 1/12 of a piece of watermelon. What related multiplication equation can you write to represent the problem and explain? Well, listen, let's think about the division part, okay? If I had the division part, it would be 4 divided by a third, okay? That's the same thing as saying, well, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. I flip-flopped those. Whew. Erase, pretend I didn't say that. We have a third of the watermelon divided by the 4 people. Okay, what does that look like if I keep it, change it, flip it? I'm going to keep the third, change it to a multiplication sign, and flip it. Remember, this 4 is actually 4 over 1. So if I flip them, it's 1 over 4. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 3 is 12. We're going to pause, and I want you to try this last problem on your own. Okay. Now that you've tried it, and you should have something here, let's finish it. Josiah serves a half a pound of macaroni salad equally to 6 guests. What fraction of a pound does each guest get? So you could draw a visual model. And if I did, I would draw a full pound, but we're not working with a full pound, we're working with a half pound. So I'd split it into 2 pieces, right? And then I'm dividing it by 6 guests. So in that case, I would have to divide each one of these into 6. And then I would shade it in. Well, 1 part of this half pound, but try it without the visual this time. Am I dividing up the half of the pound, or am I dividing up my 6 people? Well, I hope you're not dividing up people. You're going to divide up half your pound. So I'm going to say a half a pound divided by 6 people. Keep it, change it, flip it. Keep it, change it, flip it. You get 1 out of 12 servings or pounds of macaroni salad. At this point, I know we've had 12 minutes, okay? Stay with me. You are going to complete page 270 on your own. If the person that you're with, the adult that you're with, allows you to do it with a friend, that is up to them. Page 270 looks like, oh, I just flipped it over. Page 270 looks like this, okay? Some of them are word problems. Some of them are division. Remember, keep it, change it, flip it, write your final answer. This will be due in the bin when you are complete.